All right, guys, here's your last video. So what we're going to do in this one is we're going to do a combination box plot and histogram. And then you guys are going to do a problem like this for your homework that's really similar to having both of these, doing it, showing your work, and then answering some questions. So here's how you guys do a combination box plot and histogram. So you're going to do your calculator so you can see both of them. You're going to create a histogram in plot one, and then you're going to create a box plot in plot number two. And then you are going to do some adjustments. So we're going to use some new data. So we're going to just go ahead and do this in our calculator. So first thing you guys are going to do is you're going to go to stat, and then you're going to click enter. And then I have the data from the last video on here. So you arrow up, you do clear, enter, don't click delete. And then you're going to go and you're going to enter these values into your calculator. So we're going to do 1, 3, 4, 5, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, and then 20. And hopefully you guys realize right off the bat that 20 is an outlier because it just definitely doesn't fit in there. Okay, so first thing you want to do is you want to go to stat, over to calc, one variable stats, all the way down to calculate. And then remember, this one is your checksum. So you want to check that this adds up. So since this is 68 and this is 68, you know you entered all of your numbers correct. If those numbers don't match up, you want to go check your data again and just make sure that you have it all entered correctly. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to create a box plot out of this data. So the way we do that is we go second y equals, you go to the stat plot that I have on. So this is turned on, and then I'm going to go make this one a box and whisker plot. So I'm going to go here, click enter, and then I'm going to go to graph. Remember, to see this nicely, you're going to click zoom number 9, and then it's going to zoom in. So that's going to be your box and whisker plot. Now what's nice about this is you can click trace, and you can arrow across and you can see your 5-number summary. So I can see my minimum was 1, my quartile 1 is 4, median's 5.5, Q3 is 8, and the maximum is 20. So we're just gonna go ahead and write out our 5-number summary. So maximum's 20, quartile 3 was 8, your median or middle of your data is 5.5, your quartile 1 was 4, and then your minimum was 1. And then what I want you guys to do on this graph right here is I want you to just sketch what this box plot looks like. So you have, let's make this 0. So you're gonna have a dot for your minimum, so this is 1. And then our Q1 is 4, so let's just, I don't know, count by 2s. Well, that worked nicely. Okay, so then 4, you're going to draw a line for your Q1. So this is 4, this is your quartile 1, this one's your minimum. And then you go to median, so your median is a 5.5, so that's going to be somewhere like here. I draw another line, so this is Q2, or median, is 5.5. And then I arrow over again, my Q3 is 8, so I'm going to do another line at 8, where that's my Q3. And then my maximum is going to be all the way over here at 20, so when I put another dot. And then you create your box, so my box gets made out of these, and then I draw my whiskers in. So now hopefully you guys are seeing that this whisker is really, really long, so that means that we're definitely having an outlier, and we're definitely having some skewing happening, okay? So then what we're going to do is we're going to go add in a histogram. So we get a combination box plot and histogram. So what you do is you go back to the stat plot, and then you turn on this number 2. So I'm going to go to number 2 and I'm going to turn it on. And then I have a box plot in the first one. So I want this one to be a histogram. So I'm going to go click histogram here, and I'm going to click graph. Now this is kind of crazy. So first thing you want to do is click zoom number 9. So it kind of zooms it back out. And then another problem is that this data is overlapping. So my box and whisker plot is overlapping. So what you want to do is you want to change something. So we're going to go to window. And the first thing I'm going to change is my Y maximum. This is how I get the data, the box and whisker plot and the histogram to spread out. So I'm going to make this like 15. And then if I were to go back to graph, then it makes them spread out. The other thing I want to change in the window is the X scale. I want to change my bin widths to be 8. So I'm going to go change this to be 8. And then we go back to my graph. So then it creates a histogram that's kind of all connecting. And I kind of like that better than the other one that we just had. So then remember, you can click trace, and then you can arrow down, and then now you can be looking at your histogram and your box plot at the same time. So what we're going to do is we're going to add this histogram over here. So remember, this is your frequency. This is how often a piece of your data is in that bin width. So it says this one goes from 1 all the way to 9. So this first one is going to be 1 to 9. Let's make that 3 spaces. And then it tells me this has a frequency of 8. So we're gonna go up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then this is gonna be my first box. So there's 8 pieces of data inside of there. And then if I arrow over, my next one's gonna go from 9 to 17. And then it tells me there's only 1 piece of data. And then if I arrow over again, this one goes from 17 to 25. And again, there's only 1 piece of data. And then that's how I get my histogram. Okay, now in looking at both of these, you can see that they are definitely skewed, and they are definitely skewed to the, I always get this mixed up. So the peak is on the left side, so it is right skewed. Okay, so first thing we're gonna answer down here is outliers, yes. 20 is an outlier. It is really far away from the rest of the data, and it's causing our graph to kind of be stretched this direction. Okay, and then the next thing we want to know is, since there is an outlier, that's causing us to look at our center and look at our spread a little bit differently. So since there's an outlier, we can't use the mean for the center of the data because it's gonna pull the mean down, or actually up, towards the highest degree of 20. So in this one, we're gonna use the median, because there is an outlier. So we're gonna say the middle of this data is represented by the median, which in this case, if we go back up to our box and whisker plot and our 5-number summary, your median was 5.5. So the middle of this data is about 5.5 if we get rid of looking at the mean. And so if we wanted to, you would go back to the stat calc 1 variable stats. And if I look at the average, it's saying the average is 7, which isn't true. It's just causing the 20 to be pulling your data or your mean up towards that higher value. So we're gonna look at the median because we have that outlier. And then the spread is gonna be the same thing. So since we have an outlier, we're using the IQR, or the interquartile range, which is just quartile 3 minus quartile 1. So we're looking at the middle of our data, and we're using that because we have an outlier. And so then you're just gonna go back up to your data up here, and quartile 3 is 8 and quartile 1 is 4. So to get your interquartile range, you just do 8 minus 4, which is 4. So then your standard deviation, or your IQR, your kind of range in the middle, is by 4. So it's small, so that means your data is really not that spread out, versus your IQR being like 100. That would mean your data is really, really spread out from each other. And then the last thing we need to talk about is the shape. So let's do the shape based on the histogram because it needs a little bit more. So the first thing we say is it uniform? Is it single peaked or double peaked? So this one definitely looks single peaked because it has a peak right here. So this shape is going to be single peaked. And then it's definitely skewed because you have a lot more data on the left side of your graph, and then you have it kind of pulling towards the right side. So this is a right skewed graph. So that's how we're going to begin to analyze, and this is totally just the beginning. So you guys are going to get a lot more of this and a lot more practice. Just make sure you know that outliers have a big impact on the center and the spread, and they also cause your shape of your graph to be skewed one direction or the other versus it being uniform. So all of this information is important, and it all plays off of each other. So what you guys are now going to go do is you're going to do the intro to stats homework, which is very similar to this problem that we just did right here. And then as always, please reach out if you guys have any questions. I hope you guys are having a great day. Bye.